All right, wrestling fans, Kurt Clapier here with Brian Priest and Jeff Newby. We've got a great show for you today. I'm calling it the Junior Nationals Preview Show. It's also a Western Regionals show. It's also a Western States Duels show. And it's also a Cadet and Schoolboy Duels show. There's a lot to cover today. So we'll get started right away. But before we do, I want to invite you all to go to highschoolwrestlingmatches.com and click on the button that says Free Wrestling Videos and sign up for our email. We send out a free wrestling technique video every single day. All you do is put your email address in there. It's called the Daily Dose, and we give you a dose of wrestling every single day. So, Brian, you're kind of the moderator. Why don't you go ahead and get started, introduce our guest, Jeff Newby, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we got Jeff Newby. I became introduced to Jeff way back when he was a freshman sensation, became a four-time state champion for Box Elder, wrestled at UVU, and was hired on by Utah. Well, was it USA Wrestling Utah? That's the official name, I believe.
Yes,
And Jeff's been working with that organization for the past several years and doing lots of great work promoting wrestling inside the state. Both folk style, freestyle, Greco-Roman, youth, high school, and college. He's done it all with just making wrestling more omnipresent out there. So we're going to be talking here with Jeff Newby. We got a lot to talk about because it sounds like June and July are really busy with, especially I guess the youth, middle school, high school wrestling seasons. Freestyle, Greco, and even some folk style events. So right now Jeff's up at Pocatello, Idaho for the Western Regionals. So why don't you tell us what the Western Regionals are and maybe talk a little bit about how some of our wrestlers are doing up there.
Yeah, so the West Regional Tournament, basically the 11 Western states, and then our tournament's actually probably, or it is the toughest regional tournament in the country, and definitely the biggest by far. So we actually, at the tournament, there's kids from Virginia here as well as Colorado who are not part of the Western Regionals. So yesterday the kids started. So kids, bantam, intermediate, novice, schoolboy, they all started in, as well as girls started yesterday, and they did folk style. Utah had 6 kids come first place, so it's pretty good. I mean, we had Ladd Holman came first place. He's a bantam. We had Andrew Jensen come first place as a novice. Kyson Garcia come first place as a novice. Then we had 3 girls take first place: Kirsten Bush, Samantha Bush, and Angel Ogden. So they did well for folk style. Today is Greco.
Jeff, sorry to interrupt you. How old are novice for those that don't know?
So schoolboy age is born in 02 and 03. So novice is born 04, 05. Intermediate 06, 07, and then bantam 08, 09.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's how the age division down.
So 7 up through probably almost 15, I guess, right? 7 through 14 would be the age.
Yeah, I mean 14. Schoolboys, basically your 8th grade on down are schoolboys. Some of your 8th graders fall into the cadet division as well, but majority are 8th grade on down. So.
Awesome.
But you said we got Greco-Roman coming up, and I know probably of all the 3 styles, it seems like Greco-Roman is the style that Utah really shines.
Yeah, so Greco's today. They started this morning, and then they'll go through this afternoon. And then junior folk style is also today. And then tomorrow starts cadets as well. So tomorrow, all ages are going. Be a busy day tomorrow for sure here. So
who are some of our top wrestlers to look out for in the competitions that are coming up today?
I mean, definitely our Utah kids that won folk style again are going to be some of your tougher kids. Andrew Jensen, he won folk style nationals. He won West Regionals in folk style. Greco, he's going to be right there. If he doesn't, he should win it possibly there, and same with freestyle. So definitely him. I mean, Kyson Garcia, Ladd Holman, I mean, those 3 that won folk style again are going to be definitely some of the top kids.
Where are these kids from, the ones that won the event yesterday?
Ladd Holman's Juab, Andrew Jensen's with Champions, Kyson Garcia with Prestige, The Bush girls are with Champions, and then Angel Ogden is Crusher.
So yeah, and Lad Holman, that name's a little familiar. I think he's Joel Holman's boy. And
Yes.
Joel is head coach at Juab Wrestling, and the son of Lad Holman, one of the great coaches in Utah history, who won 8 or 9 titles with Delta. So looks like wrestling's in the family. Imagine now. Where's the Jensen? Is he a younger brother of some Jensens that are famous, or?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
The Jensen family from Harriman. Garcia, is that the Garcia that was related?
Boy.
I think he wrestled at Hillcrest, I believe. Or
Yeah, you cut out for a second on that. So what the Garcia kid? What's his first name?
Tyson Garcia. He's Pat Garcia's son, who wrestled at Hillcrest.
Yeah, Pat Garcia was a 3-timer for Hillcrest.
Yeah. Well, there goes to show you good genetics going on there. With those kids. And
Newbie, did we have any other placers? Besides,
we had a lot.
Third
We had
place.
a lot of placers. So.
do they keep any kind of team score?
You know what? I don't know if they have team scores posted for the other day or not. I can look real quick, but not for sure if they posted them for.
That's all right. We can, if we want to look it up, we go to trackwrestling.com, right?
Trackwrestling.com. But give us a sense, though, how you think Utah's doing, compared to some of the other states that are at this event.
And Utah does great. We don't bring the biggest numbers, that's for sure. I mean, you have a lot of states that bring more than we do. So
What states would those be?
what?
What states would those be?
I
California.
mean, Idaho, of course, brings tons.
Okay.
Nevada brings. I think Nevada is actually second most. So it's definitely something we need to work on to bring more kids. I mean, our hard thing is, we're bringing 2 junior teams to the junior duels, and so we essentially don't have any juniors up here wrestling. I think we had, a handful of juniors up here wrestling. Our cadets just got back from cadet duels, and a lot of these Western states don't necessarily attend the national duels, and so their kids are coming to this event. This is their event.
Well, let's segue into the junior duels, which are coming up in Oklahoma, right?
Hold on one second. Before we move on from Western Regionals, how does somebody get involved? How does someone qualify for Western Regionals? Talk to people that might want to go there next year. How do they get ready for that?
So Western Regionals, you need to attend our state tournament, and that's really the only qualification to go. We encourage everyone to head up to Western Regionals. It's a great tournament, tons of matches. I mean, it's 3 days consecutive, folk style, Greco, freestyle, and you can get, some kids are getting 6 matches a day. So in a span of 3 days, you can get 12, 18, 20 matches. And so it's tons. You do the duels before, ton of match time. Just go. Really, it's a matter of time.
You just have to attend the tournament, or do you have to place at the state tournament?
Nope, just attend the state tournament.
Awesome. All right.
Now I got a quick Brian Priest story moment. Okay. Years and years ago, this is clear back in 1976. Probably way before you were either of you were born, probably. Just to show you kind of how far wrestling has come in this state. My claim to fame, of anything, is I think I was the first Utah wrestler ever to wrestle in the Western Regionals. My dad took me up to Missoula, Montana, and we just showed up, and they weren't going to let me in the tournament. And of course, Dennis Priest did his thing. Kurt knows him pretty well, and lo and behold, I was wrestling in the event. And now we have, I don't know, dozens, maybe over 100 wrestlers taking part in this. I don't know. Jeff can maybe give us the total, but you think about that, 40 years from zero, more or less zero participation, to what Jeff and Utah or USA Wrestling Utah is doing, and it's amazing how far things have gone, came in this, in this state with in regards to youth participating in wrestling. So hats off to you, Jeff, and the people you work with, for sure.
Brian, I thought when you were wrestling, Brian, they had just barely invented the wrestling mat.
Yeah, it was like the old wool canvas style horsehair mat. Yeah, Max probably wrestled on some of those, but it to me, it's just like I said, it's just amazing to see, how far it's come. And I think my father was a pioneer, and people like Lad Holman and Darrell Henry and Don Neff and the Kawas and people like that. But they kind of got the ball rolling. But now we sit here, sending teams, everywhere, all across the country. It's just amazing to see in 30, 40 years how much the sport has grown in our state and how many more opportunities there are for youth to participate, and the fact that we do have a lot participating. So again, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the junior duels. It sounds like a real big event, and how do you think we'll fare out there, Jeff?
So this year is the first year we're taking 2 teams back to the junior duels. One of the things we've talked about is we want to start giving more opportunities for kids to participate in this type of event. So we decided to take 2 teams back. Right now, as it sits, our number 1 team probably will be seated somewhere in the 4 to 7 range going in. We have 22 seating points, which basically we get seating points based off how kids did at Fargo last year, how they did at the UWW Cadet or UWW Juniors. They win junior regionals, they get seating points, and so we have 22 seating points, which is good. Kind of give you an idea, Illinois I think has 38 right now. Minnesota is right around 38, 40 as well. So I'm guessing we're going to start in the 4 to 7 range in the seating, which should give us a decent draw. So in the pools, we've got to place top 2 in our pool to advance to top 8 and be All-American. And we have a strong team. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of injuries in the last week that have hurt us, and but I still think our junior team is good enough to be top 8 this year. We have enough star power to put us there, I think. So,
who are the biggest guns who are you missing that you were counting on?
Jackson Cole, he hurt his back, so he's out. Disher got pretty sick, and so he's out. So those two are 2 of the ones that will hurt. And we're missing a couple kids to college that had to go out to college early and get things done there. So I mean,
run down. I know this might be hard, or maybe you have it in front of you, Jeff. But can you run down at least who's on the I guess the first team? Who are in each weight?
At 100 pounds, we have Thomas Gordy and Mitchell Slack. 106, we have Dalton Stutzman. 113, Brandon Michael. 120 will be Gentry Warner and Cole Patterson. 126, Tanner Benedict, and that's another Tanner Cox broke his arm a few weeks ago, and he was out. And Tanner Benedict will do great though, and he's pretty solid in Greco as well. So 32, Taylor Lamont. 38, Brock Hardy and Kyle Evans. 45, Dylan Gregerson and Isaac Wilcox. Isaac Wilcox went to the cadet duels and he went undefeated both styles, so he'll be solid there.
He's wrestling up in age class.
He is,
but he's a good one.
And then 52, Ryan Winger. 160, Curtis Smith. 170, Corey Wilkinson and Owen Pence. 82, Corey Rockovitz. 195, Wyatt Coling. 220. Slash heavyweight will be Wade French and Ashton Seeley. So
Ashton's putting on some pounds, I guess.
He's putting on some pounds, so he's.
Well, you could add up if you added up the state titles. In the high school, I'm talking about the high school, state titles. You probably got make close to 100 state titles if you added up all the state titles all those wrestlers won.
Yep.
A lot of them were 2, 3, 4-time state champions in the case of Lamont. I'm sure Hardy will be a 4-timer.
The only name I didn't recognize was the 82-pounder. Where's he from?
Corey Rockovitz. He's champions. He's
second.
Actually, Greco is probably his thing. If there's any, out of freestyle Greco, he a couple years ago he was 1 match away from placing at Fargo in cadets. So he's super solid in Greco. With Corey Wilkinson, Owen Pence, and Corey. Between the 3 of them, Owen will be wrestling some at 82 as well, I'm sure. And so we'll kind of use those three in those two weights.
Yeah, just a little bit about Corey. He did take second in the 4A this year. I think he lost to Chase Lovelace of Payson in the finals. So, and good wrestler. I know he's kind of a Greco specialist. So is this Greco and freestyle at this event?
Yeah, so Greco starts tomorrow. They'll weigh in tonight, and then they'll wrestle Greco tomorrow and Thursday. They wrestle freestyle Friday and Saturday. We bust out there this year. First time we've ever bust to this event. The reason we did that is because, again, we're taking two teams, and it makes more sense to take two teams on the bus. And so they actually left on Sunday, and then they stopped halfway yesterday, and then they drove the rest of the way Monday. They got there last night, and they'll weigh in this evening, and then they'll get going tomorrow morning. So we should.
That you named, those were they the first team wrestlers, or those guys?
So those were the first team. Second team, we run down that list if you'd like as well.
Yeah. I'd like to give all the boys credit and get mentions.
So on our second team, and obviously these teams could change, depending on injuries and other factors. So again,
will be the emphasis, right? To see for the. So if a kid gets hurt, we'll move a second team guy up to the first team, right?
Right.
Okay.
So at 100 you have Dalton Stutzman, 100 you have Thomas Gordy and Dalton Stutzman. 106. Let me look at my roster real quick, make sure I get these names right. 106 we have Colby Bowden, Fremont. 113 will be Kagan Oliver, Westlake. 120 will be John Evans from Beaver. 26, Carson Halls. 32, Ranger Keckler. 38, Daniel Waddups. 45 will be Dylan Gregerson or Isaac, so they'll kind of switch. Dylan will be on the A team for Greco. Isaac will be on the A team for freestyle, and vice versa for the second team. 52 will be Carson Bodrin. 60, Seth Gardner. 170, Tanner Shields. 82, Michael Milliner. 95, we don't have a 95 for the B team. Brandon Clausen will be 220, and then Braden Davis from Delta will be the 285.
It's a very good team right there as well, and a few state titles and a lot of state placers, at least in the high school state tournament on that list for sure. So,
Newbie, did you train these guys together? Were they all kind of training on their own? How did the training go down? And mindset wise, how do they feel ready? Are they there to compete, or are they just kind of happy to be there? What's your vibe from the team?
So I think once state gets over, we run national team practices at UVU. The UVU coaches run those practices for all of our dual members and our Fargo members. And so a lot of them have been there practicing. Some practice up at Utah United and in other places. It'll be interesting. Like I said, this is the first year we've bussed out there. And so it'll be interesting to see how they do after a bus. We got out there early enough on Monday night to make sure they could rest and get back into things before we start on Wednesday. So I think they'll be ready to go. I think
this is in Oklahoma, right? Stillwater or Oklahoma City?
Oh, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Tulsa. Oh, it's in Tulsa. Okay, I'll keep trying for cities there to get one right. So it's in Tulsa, which it's a decent amount of bus ride, but not excessive. I think the boys will be ready. Now, do you think we'll probably fare better in the Greco versus the freestyle?
I do. For this one, I do think we will. I think we'll do better in Greco. Sometimes though, we get surprised and our teams do better in freestyle. And actually, for as much as we are Greco State, except for this year, our schoolboy team has typically done better in freestyle. Typically we do better in Greco, but our freestyle isn't that far behind. So.
Well, what makes us a Greco State? Why has Greco-Roman wrestling been such a good fit for a lot of our Utah wrestlers?
I think the biggest reason is we start Greco early. Our kids start competing at tournaments early. A lot of these kids don't do Greco in their states until they get into high school. And so I think even at the schoolboy level, you'll see a lot of kids that are super good wrestlers, but they've never done Greco. And so our kids are starting Greco when they're bantams, fly bantam intermediates. So they're going to have a lot of, years of Greco under their belt by the time they get to schoolboys, cadets, and juniors. So I think one of the biggest reasons we do better in Greco is because we actually provide opportunities for Greco, whereas I think a lot of states not as much as us.
I think we had Ivan Ivanov living in the state for a while. It was about 10, 15 years ago, and it seemed like he got the ball rolling a little bit, didn't he, Jeff, with Greco and
we've
training wrestlers and stuff.
Well, years ago, Jed Jones brought in Mark Fuller. Jed brought in Mark Fuller to train at what was called Sundance back then, and then his club became Treehouse Athletic Club, and that's when he brought in both Yvonnes. There were two Yvonnes.
Yeah, I think you got to give Mark Fuller and Jed a lot of credit as well.
Yeah, and they brought them in, and there was actually a year, Cam Jones's senior year, I believe, which would have been 2001, I think. I think he's 2 years younger than me. His senior year, Utah had 5 national champs in Greco, and they were all out of that club. And I know it didn't all come from that club because I know like Justin Reese was excellent, and he was an elite guy. And Sanderson's always competed at the national level, and Gabe Vigil was always really good back in those days at Greco. But I think at that time, the majority of the guys that were winning national championships at least were out of that Treehouse Athletic Club. And I know there were 5 in 2001. And then Ivanov did so well here that USA Wrestling scooped him up and took him to Michigan, and that's kind of when he left Utah. But nowadays, I don't know if that's trickling down, and that early success is part of why we still have it now. But I know when I was finishing and when Newbie was kind of just starting high school, we were really awesome at Greco.
Yep.
Well, I think that's also a pretty good era for Utah wrestling. We got a good era going right now, but those wrestlers, I was a high school coach who's been around for a long time. Those wrestlers that came about in the late 90s and the early O's, I guess you want to call it, there were some really, really amazing wrestlers and a lot of talent with great coaches. And then speaking of coaches, Jeff, who's going to be coaching out there for us?
So we have Craig Lamont that's out there, Greg Williams, Erkeen, and then Dwayne Henry. So we have 2 coaches for each team, and Dwayne and Erkeen will be with the B team mostly, and then Greg and Craig will be with the A team for the most part. And they'll kind of switch back and forth depending on they have certain kids going certain places. So
all legal with the college recruiting. This is no.
It is. So
that's really cool that you get college coaches out there coaching these kids.
Yeah, it's great for them. So it definitely helps our college out so they can get kind of the inside scoop on some kids as well.
So, Jeff, for those that aren't aware, what some of the other things that have happened in Utah wrestling, we talked about before the show. Go ahead, Brian.
The boy duels, we got the girls duels. Talk a little bit about those things.
We've had a bunch going on. So we had the schoolboy duels a couple weeks ago in Indiana, and I actually took that team back, and our Greco placed 10th, our freestyle placed 19th. We had, some kids did great. Tristan Smith, I think he lost 1 match in freestyle, and I think he lost 1 or 2 matches in Greco. I think just 1 match in Greco. We had Lucas Carrillo. He lost 2 matches in Greco, did great in Greco. Drew Lang went 2-0 in Greco. Jaden Staines went 4-1. Cade Siddall went 4-2. Tucker Nacarado 7-1. Mercutio Williams 7-1. So Greco out there, we did great. By the time we got to freestyle, our kids were they were beat up. They were tired. Greco was tough on them. They wrestled 4 matches a day, and against great competition, and then exhibition matches on top of that. And so by the time we got to freestyle, you could tell they were beat up. Freestyle wise though, again, Tristan Smith, he started us off at 70 pounds, did great, 8-1. Drew Lang went 6-2. Tyler Shern went 8-1. Tucker Nacarado 7-2. Tegan Ludwig went 6-2, and then Mercutio Williams went 8-1, and Weston War went 7-2. So they did great. They were tired. Didn't do as well in freestyle, but definitely did great in freestyle.
Let me ask you, in this event in the junior duels, do some of the states have separate freestyle and Greco teams where a lot of our boys are doing both of these events, but some of these other states might just have oh, I'm a Greco guy only, and I'm a freestyle guy only, and
Yeah, so
it'd be challenging to me if you had to wrestle a full slate in both styles.
yeah, so a lot of these states, they bring a lot of kids. They bring 2, 3 kids per weight class, and their kids are only wrestling 2 matches a day instead of 4 matches a day. Every once in a while, you'll have a team that brings in a completely new team for freestyle. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. I think last year Ohio, their Greco team, they had half a team, and then freestyle, I think they won it in freestyle or came second or something like that. So you'll have stuff like that, but just not too often.
To me, maybe that's hindering a little bit our freestyle performance.
Yeah.
If a lot of these other teams, their wrestlers are wrestling half or 2/3 the amount of matches our boys are wrestling.
Yep, it does affect them definitely. People don't realize wrestling 4 tough matches every day. By that 3rd and 4th day, it's tough.
And tell me a little bit about this girls' duels. That's coming up?
Yeah, so after schoolboys, real quick, we had cadet duels.
Okay.
And we struggled there a little bit. We had, again, some more injuries. Then we went on to the Western States duels, which are up here in Pocatello. We took 2 junior teams up here and a middle school team. And then we actually have girls' duels coming up here on Thursday. So first time we've done this up here in Pocatello. There's I think they said 5 teams right now, 5 girls teams that will be participating. And as you guys know, girls wrestling in Utah is growing quite quickly, and we will fill every weight except for 2. So we're only going to have 2 forfeits, which is excellent, and it'll be interesting to see how we do.
Well, let me ask you. Last week we actually talked about with Chad Blevins about the possibility of a girls' high school state tournament. It would be all classifications. Just wanted your quick thoughts on that, and where USA Wrestling Utah sees that.
So I think I think it'd be great. First of all, I do know there's some concerns. I've actually heard a couple since you guys have talked about it. The big question is, if there is a girls' state tournament, can the girl wrestle in the boys' division also? And maybe do you guys know that answer, by the way?
Well, I don't know what they would do at that point. Like if it's a high school sanctioned thing,
right?
Now that there's a girls' golf, the girls can't play on the boys' golf teams anymore, and so if it was officially sanctioned, I would say no. They would just be confined to the girls' tournament.
I know that. I think having all girls state tournament is great. I know there's one girl in particular that has a goal to play to the boys state tournament. And it's actually this parent that I was talking to, and obviously they did a girls state tournament. She would never have that opportunity to do that.
She wants them to hold off till she's done with high school then.
Well, Lisa, Chad said it wouldn't happen probably for 2 years anyway.
Right.
And we have a pretty decent girl wrestler at Provo, and she actually won a couple matches for us. She didn't qualify for state, but at our divisional, she won like 2 matches, and we're going, hey, that's about 6 points for our team there. Yeah, we won, and she's getting better and better. Yeah, I don't know. She might even be up at this event you're talking about. So she's wrestling.
I think overall for a girls' state tournament would be great though. For 95% of the girls, I think it'd be great. You'll have those small percentage of girls that this girls' state tournament wouldn't be very tough for them possibly, and they would rather be in the boys' state. But I think for the majority, it'd be great.
Yeah, and I think you got to start somewhere. I'm pretty flexible on the whole thing, and I think your role at Utah USA, USA Wrestling Utah is to build girls wrestling, and that will creep over into the high school participation and make this tournament viable. But it's got to start somewhere, and it'll probably be a lot of low numbers and stuff at first, but. But I think Kurt mentioned last week, I thought you made a good point with Chad, Kurt, that now might allow more freedom for the high school coach to recruit girls into wrestling, and say you're going to have your separate tournament. You don't have to wrestle against the guys. Maybe the guys will be more comfortable with that as well. I think it could be a really good thing. So that's my 2 cents on that.
That could be cool. So anything else we need to talk about today?
Well, let me ask Jeff this one question. Maybe make it our final question, or whatever you got left, Kurt. But yeah, I talked to Chad about the the status of Utah wrestling, and I said, got some really good things going on. It seems like we have a lot of elite level, wrestlers and teams, and clubs. But we got some pockets, maybe I'm kind of more coming from the high school and, some programs that are really struggling for numbers and so forth. So what would you say is the overall state of Utah wrestling? And if there are some areas of improvement or concern, what do you see the role of USA Utah or USA Wrestling Utah in maybe strengthening, particularly, the high school programs that are having a hard time?
I think the state of wrestling in Utah is really good. I think where we lack right now is probably our depth. And we're seeing that in a lot of things with duels and things like that. We need more depth. We need we have great 1 guys, we have great 2 guys. We need a great 1 through 6 guy, and we need to be able to get more depth in each weight, to be able to compete at all these duels and to win and place super high. I think, our role, I think coaching, we've got to get more coaches. We've got to find more coaches. More people have got to come out and help build a program. Programs can be built, and some areas are definitely more difficult than others, but we've got to have the people there to do it. And, I think, the gap when we lost our college program in Utah, that gap between when we got it, I think we're seeing that gap now. I think we're starting to see, the effects of losing a college program. And a lot of coaches are starting to finish up and move on. And there's still high schools out there that don't have a coach, and the season's right around the corner. And so I think, coaching is got to be the #1 place where we focus and try and get more coaches. Support the current coaches, and whatever we can do to help them build a program is from the youth up. It's great to get, a bunch of 9th graders wrestling, but you've got to have a bunch of 4th graders coming up through your program to make that high school team great.
Yeah, let me to touch on that coaching thing, because when I wrestled, we would lost some programs, but we still had, I think, 3 college wrestling programs when I was in college wrestling. And I was on the BYU team, but nothing great. I don't want to brag up my career, but I became a high school coach, hopefully a halfway decent one. Jess Christian became a high school coach. Chris Brown became a very successful high school coach. I know Brad Gustafson, got into coaching, and these are just some of my teammates at BYU, and I know, some of the guys at Weber State that had teams, and Utah State that had teams. A lot of those guys got into coaching, and that's why, I've given my heart and soul to help fund UVU wrestling and be there, as much as I can for that program. But I am a total believer that we need 1 or 2 more college wrestling programs sooner rather than later, because that would just bring more potential high school coaches into the framework. And so, so I was wondering if Utah, or USA Wrestling Utah, is working on anything going with adding a college program in Utah, whether it be a JC or a Division I or whatever. Anything going on there?
We would love to help get a program started and support a program and donate money financially if that was what it took. We've met with a couple colleges, and the biggest thing, it's funding. It comes down, they don't have the money to do it, and they won't do it without $1 million check. Really is what it comes down to. As soon as we can find that person that's passionate about wrestling and willing to write that check, is the day we can probably get a college program back. But until we can get that done, it's very difficult to convince a college AD to start a new program that's not going to generate revenue for them, and there's not enough funding, and there's no funding there. And so we'd love to. Having UVU has been great. we're starting to see coaches come out of UVU. I mean, Ben Kerr doing Utah United. We got Jeb Clark at Payson. We have Adam Fager up north, helping with Layton and Crusher. Tucker Ray's helping with Champions. Ross Taylor at Mountain View.
Yeah, Ross, yeah.
So we're starting. There's probably a couple more out there. And the more of these UVU guys we can keep in state, and get them into coaching, the quicker I think we'll get better. So
I think it's great. I just would love to see one or two other colleges and almost maybe triple our potential coaches and just have more opportunities for our wrestlers to go in, because I don't know how many wrestlers Greg can keep at UVU. Maybe 25, 30. And like I said, when I was in high school, there was Weber, Utah State, and BYU, and then maybe a generation before me, we had Utah State, BYU, Snow, SUU. We had a lot more opportunities, and a lot of the coaches, from my father's generation or came through those programs and stuff like that. And so I would really like to see another program or two, come about. But I know there's a lot of challenges to that.
Just write that $1 million check, Priest. That's all you got to do.
I know. We could get famous. You're going to be the one that's rich, Kurt.
So, Newbie, thanks for your time, man. I was commenting with Brandon Ripplinger. I went and helped him with his camp last week, and I feel like this year we've had more guys go wrestle college, sign with colleges to wrestle than we've had for several years. So I think there's a lot of people involved in that happening, but I think you were a big part of that. So good job, man.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I'm real proud and pleased of what both of you are doing in the wrestling world, and I'm getting a little older, and it's good to see a little bit of the younger set pick up what you're doing and maybe take it. You guys have taken things to the next level in a lot of ways, and I'm just want to put that in. I'm really happy with what you two are doing in particular. Well done.
Sounds good. Well, we'll probably have you back on after Fargo, see how we did at Fargo, and talk about that. But that's it for today's show. Again, I just want to invite you guys to go to highschoolwrestlingmatches.com and sign up for the free match of the day. It's called the Daily Dose. You'll see where to click once you go there. And that's it for today's podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.